Now, normally the only time I have deep thoughts about Turkey is 7 o'clock on Thanksgiving. But when I was looking down my list of all the people possible candidates for the Hall of Fame, just a brief synopsis of this guy's life blew me off my seat. I mean, he had the charisma to hold a small force against like the best army in the world at his time. He had the vision to plant his own country in the Middle East, fraught with war, and he had the force of will to bring it actually into being. This man, his name is Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, and the last two names are bestowed to him by his people. And here's the story. Now, most of his childhood has been muddled by historians because he was so famous. They always try to, prove that he was either a saint, a god, or the devil himself. And they never, they kept on looking through his childhood until it has become a big mess. But we do know that he was born, ironically, in Greece, in a little town called Thessaloniki. And the only official start of his childhood began in a military academy he attended. And he attended it without his parents' permission, which is a big no-no. However, he did really, really, really good in the military academy. So good that his instructor gave him a nickname, Kemal, which is actually means perfection. He was literally called perfection by his instructors. It's pretty good. Yeah. Well, he lived up to his name. As soon as he got out of the military academy, his first step was to join a group of revolutionaries called the Young Turks, who overthrew the Pasha, the autocratic dictator at that time, and set up a parliamentary government. Here they are. It's a misnomer. They don't look that young, but they're young for their age. Yeah. And then, of course, as soon as he got out of doing that, he jumped right into World War I at a little place called Gallipoli. Now, during World War I, Turkey was really sort of the odd man out. He wasn't, Turkey was not very strong in its military power. It wasn't very advanced at all, and they were constantly under attack from British, all the other people of Europe, especially the British. And so at Gallipoli, a place called the English, Italians, Greeks, I think those were the Bulgarians and Serbians. And they landed 16 divisions of troops at a place called the Straits of Bosphorus and, Dardanelles, in that general area of Turkey. Now, if you don't know, this is the capital of the Ottoman Empire at that time. If they had successfully landed their troops and marched all the way to the capital, the World War I would have gone completely different. Except for a reserve division lieutenant called Mustafa Kemal. He, without any permission from the higher-ups, gathered up all the troops in that area and sent them to defend this coast at all costs. And he led every charge himself. He fought on the front lines, and he, here's a picture, right on the front lines with the rest of his troops. And he held his force against 16 divisions of the best fighting forces at that time. And his quote says, "I am not ordering you to attack, I'm ordering you to die. Until we die, we can win the time for the arrival of new troops and commanders." It was 10 months of literally hell. Okay, they ran out of bullets, they ran out of men, they were out 24 hours for several stretches at a time, and after they ran out of bullets, he led charges with bayonets. He just ran up, bayoneted people, back into their churches, wait for the next wave. And, despite all his best efforts to kill pretty much everyone in the world, he couldn't hold up against, he couldn't be everywhere. And eventually, the Ottoman Empire got overwhelmed. Now, the Allies are kind of annoyed at the whole World War thing. So they decide to punish the Ottoman Empire by putting them under a so-called treaty that basically carved up their lands for the rest of Europe, and disabled all their troops and all that. Well, Kemal didn't like that. So after he did his duty, he crossed the Black Sea from Istanbul to a little place called Ankara. And if you know anything about Turkey, that's the modern capital of Turkey today. And from there, he was able to devise ways of holding off this large piece of land with a few handfuls of loyal supporters. And he gathered the rest of his troops from the area. And he did everything he did in World War I again with less troops, less time, and even more people trying to kill them all. It was as if during the Revolutionary War, George Washington and like 3 boatful of people sailed into the Gulf of Mexico, only to come back and reconquer the entire North America. That's how good he was. Well, he did it, and he got this gigantic piece of land for himself. And if you see here, Iraq is right over here, Iran's right over there. This is the Middle East. He was now in charge of a country in the Middle East with a long history of people living in palaces with big harems, gigantic lands, big gardens, big harems. He could have had just about anything he wanted to, but he didn't. He set up another parliamentary government, and he started like 500 years of reforms from everything. For example, he brought some few necessities of life to Turkey, like separation of church and state, separation of church and law. He changed this Arabic language to the Latin dictionary, which the rest of Europe was using. He changed the curriculum so that mistakes like this doesn't happen, And oh my God, what was this? This is a university, right? He set up universities all over the place to help encourage, adult education, and he changed the fashions, of course, so that it ratchets the more modern trends in the rest of Europe. He raised the status of women so that they had they could run for office. They had rights, they could own property, things like that. And he started art and culture, like plays, archaeology and Hittite remains, things like that. Most of the museums in Turkey today are due to him. What was after that? Yeah. Well, during his lifetime, he also did a lot of diplomatic work with the people he was bayoneting in the face not too long ago. USSR, Britain, Serbians, those kind of people. And instead of being like this war hawk, he ultimately, established peace around his area. Now, he served as the president. He served as a president for about 15 years and 12 days. And during that entire time, he was trying to set up a nice parliamentary government. But no one would run against him. No one could run against him. He was the most famous and popular man in the country. And this is what his funeral looked like. This front line here is all soldiers. Everyone after that are all civilians coming to see this man's funeral. This is what his trip to his tomb looked like. It stretches all the way back to the city. He was never given any awards during his lifetime. He always refused them. He was always so modest. But after his death, his country made sure that no one ever forgot him. And just about everything in Turkey is still named after him. The Ataturk International Airport, the Ataturk Bridge, Ataturk Dam, Ataturk Stadium. They got every town that was capable of commissioning a statue did. And people that had to cut back on money because they didn't have any, at least saved his head. And the individuals, they really loved him, okay? And some of them they loved him so much they decided to tattoo him onto their skin. It's a new trend, the Ataturk face. In fact, if you're wondering why I haven't mentioned the name Ataturk until now, it's because the government of Turkey decided to give him that name. It's means of the Turks, or father of the Turks. His name is literally Mustafa, perfection, father of the Turks. Okay? His country honored him after he died. Not only did his country honor him in this way, all the bills, all the money in Turkey has his face on it. Now, George Washington only has the dollar bill. They have it on the $100, I think it's the $1 bill. They got the 50, 10s. All the coins have his name and face on it. It's pretty boss. Yeah. It wasn't just Turkey either. UN, United Nations, representative for basically the most powerful nations in the world. They have a branch called UNESCO. It's for the humanitarian efforts of famous people of the United Nations. And they gave him an Ataturk centennial. This basically says the entire world is recognizing the efforts that Mustafa Kemal did during his 15-year presidency. This has never been awarded to anyone else by UNESCO. This is a one-time thing. Okay, they have monuments up to him at everywhere, not just in Turkey. They have it in UN. They have it in Austria. Everywhere. And basically, Mustafa Kemal, he was George Washington. He was Sylvester Stallone. He was, what was that girl's name? Susan B. Anthony. He was FDR, Leonidas, and Abraham Lincoln, all rolled up into one, put in the right place at the right time with the right kind of attitude. And in my opinion, he surpassed all of them into the World Hall of Fame.